all your school rugby, all in one place. This is NextGenXV.
Alright guys, welcome to NextGenXV. Today's video topic is the top 10 toughest rugby players of all time. So if you are new to the channel, please don't forget to click that subscribe button as well as bell notification, and as soon as new videos are released, you'll be the first to know. So let's get into our top 10. Starting off, we have COLIN MEADS from New Zealand. Now, not only a hard man, but one of the world's greatest ever players to boot. MEADS was nicknamed Pine Tree due to his incredible physical presence and would go on to represent the All Blacks on 55 occasions during a career which spanned 14 years. He was only the second ever All Black to be sent off the field, and in 1970 he played for 70 minutes against Eastern Province during the All Blacks tour to South Africa with a broken arm. Perhaps his most famous incident was ending the career of Aussie Ken Catchpole, whom he hit with such force that he managed to rip the hamstring off the bone. He would later describe this incident as a tragic accident. In ninth place we have Graham Price from Wales. So respected a hard man that he is often the go-to man in Wales when selecting the hardest rugby players in the world. Graham Price's name to this day carries a lot of respect. The 1970s were a golden period for Welsh rugby, and club competitions were known to be particularly brutal, and this is where Graham Price made his name. A Welsh schools champion at discus and shot put, Price made his debut at only 18 years of age as a tight head prop, where he had to hold his own against some of the most brutal front rows in world rugby at the time. Although not the biggest front row ranker, no doubt he was the toughest, and often brutalised far larger opponents, and with Bobby Windsor and Charlie Faulkner formed one of the scariest front rows in history, known as the Viet Gwent. Price went on to have a highly decorated career and is not only known for his toughness on the field, but is also considered to be one of the greatest tight heads of all time. At 8th place we have GERARD from France. Now, great rugby players are often discovered during club games or even school games and gradually make their way up the ranks. GERARD, however, was discovered in a different way. A massive bar fight took place in a bar where president of a local rugby club happened to be. After the fight, the only man left standing was CHOLLEY, who was found out to be a French paratrooper heavyweight boxing champion. The club immediately set out buying CHOLLEY's military contract and put him to work. He became known as the Master of Menace and became best known for knocking out his opponents on the field at a time when rugby was still very much a mercenary sport. His record, it is said, is laying out 4 opponents when France took on the Scots. He was in 2006 voted as the scariest rugby player in the history of France and was offered a job as a bodyguard for the President of France, Charles de Gaulle. At number 7 we have Jerry Collins from New Zealand. Now, when Jerry Collins tackled you, you knew it. The man hit with such ferocity you could literally hear the opponent's bones crunching on the field. It was not only his tackling which was fearsome, but his strength in the carry was legendary, and along with Richie McCaw formed one of the best loose-forward combinations of all time. One just has to look at his tackle on fellow hardman Colin Travis, where the latter was knocked out cold. Perhaps what made Collins even more fearsome was the fact that he did not attempt to look like a hard man. It just came naturally to him, and his mere presence and the thought of taking him on physically was enough to strike fear into even the toughest rugby players. Collins was unfortunately killed in a car accident in 2015, but the memory of his exploits on the field will live on forever. In 6th place we have Willie John McBride from Ireland. Now, when one thinks of a tough rugby player, generally size is of paramount importance. Willie John McBride was certainly not the biggest lock forward that ever took to the field, but almost certainly he was one of the toughest. Perhaps McBride's most famous for the 99 call. During the Lions tour to South Africa, the British Lions coaching staff were trying to figure out a way to match the South Africans' physical intensity. McBride came up with a simple solution. When he shouted 99, the entire team would start physical altercations with their nearest opponent, his logic being that the referee was unlikely to send off all 15 members of the team. Off the field a gentleman, but on the field a brute. A story which sums that up would be the Lions game against Free State, where he knocked an opponent's glass eye out and then told his team to go after the good eye. A legend of the game and one tough player as well. Coming in at 5th place we have Jacques Burger from Namibia. Like others on this list, Burger unleashed hell on his victims, but perhaps a noticeable difference being that Jacques Burger probably unleashed a bit of hell on himself as well. After not getting much game time in South Africa, the Namibian made his way to England, where coach Brendan Fenter recruited him into the Saracens team. What would follow, nobody could have guessed, with Burger going on to represent the London-based team on 100 occasions and becoming a cult hero. Berger was known for punishing tackles as well as putting every inch of his body on the line, particularly in the breakdowns. The result? 2 cheekbone reconstructions, 3 shoulder surgeries, over 10 knee surgeries to name but a few. To list all of his injuries would require its own video, yet he never gave up, and this is why, deservedly, he's on our list of the toughest rugby players of all time. Coming in at 4th place, we have Martin Johnson from England. Now, Martin Johnson will no doubt go down as one of the greatest locks of all time. A World Cup winner who embodied the grit and determination of the English squad at the time. Perhaps an underrated part of his game was his tough and no-nonsense attitude when the time arose. It is not widely known that Johnson in fact played the vast majority of his career with a shoulder injury. The fact was never suspected just shows how tough the England captain was. But perhaps his greatest moment as a hard man of rugby was during the 1997 Lions tour to South Africa. In what was one of the most brutal series of all time, Johnson never stood back an inch and was at the forefront of the physical battles faced by the Lions and led his troops to a series win in South Africa, a rare achievement for the British and Irish Lions. In 3rd place, we have SCHALK from South Africa. There is perhaps no player on this list who put his body on the line in the same manner as SCHALK, a legend of Springbok rugby. He made his Springbok debut in 2003, aged only 20, and would go on the following year to be named World Player of the Year. His work at the breakdown as well as his never-say-die attitude personified the grit of the Springboks at the time, and Dan Carter would name him as his toughest ever opponent, saying, "He battled our forwards and never stopped going. He never stopped. He was just so physical and his leg drive was incredible. I kept looking at my jersey to see if I had a target on my back because he just never stopped coming for me." But perhaps his greatest challenge would come off the field. In 2013, he contracted bacterial meningitis. The outlook was so bad that his wife called friends and family to inform them that the Springbok was on his way out. He fought the disease the same way he fought all other challenges that came his way, and despite losing 30 kgs and nearly dying, he took to the field of play again and was awarded the Comeback of the Year award at the Laureate Sports Awards. Coming in at 2nd place, we have BLAIR MAYNE from Ireland. Now, BLAIR MAYNE, or Paddy as he was known, certainly will go down as the craziest rugby player of all time and one of the toughest. A heavyweight boxing champion at university, Mayne's exploits during the 1938 British Lions tour to South Africa was the stuff of legends. His relaxation between games would consist of destroying hotel rooms as well as challenging dock workers to fights. He also befriended and freed a convict and left a formal dinner when invited by a fellow drinker to go antelope hunting. His rugby career was interrupted by the Second World War, where Paddy was a founding member of the SAS and became the most decorated Allied soldier of the Second World War. One can only wonder how far BLAIR MAYNE's rugby career could have gone had it not been for the interruption of World War II. And in 1st place, we have Buck SHELFORD from New Zealand. Now, the haka used to be a bit of a joke, to be fair. If one looks at the video footage from the early 80s and before, it was a far cry from the battle challenge we know of today. The man responsible for that was none other than Buck SHELFORD. His aim was to make the traditional warrior dance so ferocious that it would energize crowds and make their opponents cower. But our main reason for naming SHELFORD as our toughest ever player comes from his exploits at the Battle of Nantes. After having 4 teeth knocked out, he refused to leave the field of play. Spitting the teeth out and continuing to wage war against the French, later in the game he was given a kick and his scrotum was ripped open. Did he go to hospital? Did he go to the changing rooms? Nope. SHELFORD refused all advice and asked for his scrotum to be stitched back together so he could return to the field of play as soon as possible. Now, playing after losing your teeth makes you a hard man. Playing with a broken arm, that makes you a legend. Playing with your ballsack broken open makes you something that is beyond human, and for that, Buck is our number 1. If you appreciated this video, please don't forget to smash that like button, and if you have not yet, get with the program and click that subscribe button as well as bell notification. While you're here, if you're interested in more quality content, why not head over to our website, www.nextgen15.com. That's www.nextgenxv.com. Cheers.